Hey everyone, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. Um, I'm Steve, and today we have BrayneGro, I'm sorry, and then joining us today from Quest Hydro, we have, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. We have Jared, and then
Coleman.
I think your name was Cole. Yep.
Yeah, Coleman's the first.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Sometimes people have a different name on their hangouts, so I wanted to make sure I didn't get it wrong.
Yeah, Retzloff is a mouthful.
Alrighty.
Thanks for having us.
Before we yeah, thanks for coming. They were with us originally on the Mammoth P episode, but unfortunately they had to go before we could get to their segment, and they were kind enough to join us today. So I really appreciate them taking the time to get out and reach out to us and share their knowledge with us. I also have another quick announcement. I do have the new dates for the Aquaponic Cannabis classes at Ouroboros. The next one will be July 22nd and 23rd. The following one after that will be August 19th and 20th. After that will be September 23rd and 24th. And then after that will be October 21st and 22nd. So if you are looking to come hang out and see some live in-person Aquaponic Cannabis and take a class, this month we might not have the the grow online, but definitely by August we'll have the grow, and we'll have all kinds of cool stuff to show you guys and to talk about here and coming up that I can't quite talk about yet. But you're definitely going to want to come out here for the in-person class, because you'll get quite the experience. I will assure you that without sharing more than I'm allowed to at the moment. Alrighty, now that we have that out of the way, I believe Roger and Marty will be joining us in a little bit. They were having some issues earlier. Thanks a lot to Quest Hydro. I had a chance to meet them while we were at the DGC Cup, and I got a chance to talk to Jared, and I think we were talked for half an hour. It was really cool. So he was. I really wanted to get him on the show. We also, in aquaponics grows, humidity is a huge factor, especially if you're growing in your basement. You're going to want to not warp the floor upstairs. You're going to worry about molds. It's going to be an issue for you if you're growing aquaponics in a greenhouse. Too much humidity, especially in the winter, can cause mold problems and all kinds of stuff. So humidity is very important, and it's really awesome that they could take the time to join us. Thanks for joining us, guys. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys do?
Yeah, Quest has been is one brand under a larger umbrella, but we've really been in the the gardening industry for about 7-8 years now. I personally have been with the parent company, which is called Thermistore, for a decade now. A variety of different experiences, from service to quality manager in our manufacturing operations, worked construction, rental, and they kept trying to get me over on the gardening side due to some of my history, and it's been great ever since. So again, thanks for having us on the show. Jared?
Yes, and I joined with Quest at the beginning of this year. More of a background with environmental design, but I've been holding it down here in Colorado and New Mexico as a rep. I'm just getting to know my territory and learning a lot.
Yeah, and I primarily work New England, New York, New Jersey, and then venture down Florida, Puerto Rico.
Absolutely. You have a big territory. Puerto Rico sounds fun.
So it's been a great ride for Quest as a climate control, as a dehumidifier manufacturer. We really hit our stride, or our niche in the market, kind of identifying that overhead dehumidification had some substantial value over some of the portable stuff that had characteristically been in the market. We found people buying either like our flood restoration equipment or some of our residential basement and crawl space kind of dehumidification equipment, and using it in their cultivations. And we've really been able to dial in and provide a nice suite of solutions. Larger capacity, really focused on energy efficiency, and a great warranty for a product that's built in the U.S. So it's been good.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So why don't you guys tell us about some of the challenges you guys run into, or some of the common questions that you guys get from people that are don't realize maybe they need a dehumidifier, or a commercial operation. At what point is it worthwhile to we'll just start off that first question.
I would say for me in my territory, being in Colorado, New Mexico, the big educational piece is explaining to people the importance of dehumidification in a closed environment. A lot of people rely on intaking outside air and exhausting, and just explaining to them, the risks that you take on, and when drawing air from outside, there's harmful particles, and not to mention pests from the Front Range that can invade your indoor space. And I would say that basically a big question, a lot of people will say, I have 10 lights and my ceiling is this high and this many dimensions, but how many dehus do I need? And it's really explaining to the end users, or to potential end users, that it's really about calculating your plant consumption, because that'll give us an idea of how much water is going to be active in the air. Kind of sticks to our motto of water in, water out is what I use for sizing. But I would say that's the biggest one.
Yeah, sizing is definitely one of the biggest questions we get.
Yep. How about you? Your territory, Coleman, in humid areas?
Yeah, so more often than not, we're kind of singled out in a lot of instances to indoor gardens. Again, the whole idea with an indoor garden is to be able to precisely control your atmosphere and air changes and things like that. So, characteristically, any moisture that's being transpired from the plant, which is basically how many gallons you're feeding on a daily basis, is being contained in that room. Direct ventilating usually has either smell issues with the neighbors down the road, or in particular municipalities. Jared touched on the possibility of when you are bringing in that outside air, the possibility of bringing in mold or pests with it. So it's really about the understanding that we're starting with a sealed room to begin with. If you're running CO2, characteristically, you're going to seal that room as best as you can to keep the CO2 in the room. And from there, it's a matter of, you got to be able to handle the transpiration rate, which is truly 98% of what you're watering on a daily basis. So if I'm putting down, 10 gallons a day, that's 10 gallons being consumed and transpired right back up into the room. And if we're not doing something to pull the moisture out of the air, your relative humidities will certainly go too high, and then you run the risks of powdery mildew or botrytis. You do see a lot of people running very high relative humidities that are just really kind of playing the game, running the risk. A lot of times I kind of equate it to, we all were at that age where we went out to the bars and perhaps played around a little too much. If you got lucky, you walked away without the STD. And that's kind of what PM is. So there's a lot of guys that are able to run with it for a long time, but if you do come down with PM, now we really got to take preventative measures, and really, that preventative measure is the benchmark is 55% relative humidity is what mold requires to propagate. So my advice to everybody is, as soon as you switch to flower, there's no way I'm going above 55 just for risk mitigation. You've invested all that time up until that point. At that point, it's about managing your risk and making sure that crop comes to harvest.
How would you go about adjusting that equation you were talking about, for a hydroponic system, for example, or an aquaponic system, where you have kind of a set volume of water in the room?
So with a hydro system, you're looking at, well, what are you topping off your reservoir with every day is truly what your plants are consuming and transpiring back into the room. And like I said, it's a 97, 98% of what the plant consumes It's really only holding on to 2 or 3% for cell structure growth. So it's pretty much a 1-to-1. So when we do that sizing calculation, I really push you or try to back you into what your watering schedule looks like on a daily basis. So if somebody's watering 25 gallons a day, I kind of seek out, is any of that drained to waste? If 5 gallons of that is drained to waste, we really only have 20 gallons being consumed by the plants. The magic is in understanding the math that there's 8 pints in a gallon. So at 20 gallons a day times 8 pints, that's 160 pints per day. And most, all dehumidifiers are measured based upon their pints per day of performance. And so that makes it a real easy, like Jared called it, a water in, water out. Water into the room has to equal the water capacity being removed from the room. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yep. So we had a question from.
Sometimes it's so simple. People are like, "Whoa, are you kidding me? It's that simple."
Exactly.
That was a great way to state it. I've never had someone, explain it that simply.
So when you start to look at an aquaponics setup, the gray area there ends up being truly the tanks that the fish are occupying. So we really got to look at an open surface area calculation with agitated water and what temperature that's at to try and calculate an evaporation rate. So it's not just what the plants are consuming, you also have an evaporation off of the tank. I would say call us and we will work you through that calculation because it's a little more involved.
Awesome. That's great for people that know, that are maybe trying to, figure this out on their own at home. That might just be easier for them in that particular case, just to give you a buzz and ask, you guys directly which one they should buy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of times the biggest question after that, how do I size, is they really want to understand how much dehumidification they need because their air conditioner is pulling out moisture. And really what I explained to them is the understanding that, yes, we can back into a BTU calculation on how much air conditioning you have and try and figure out what the inefficiency in your air conditioner is and how much moisture it's going to pull out. What you're really sizing your dehumidifiers is come lights out. Once your lights go out, your AC is going to be running either much less or not at all, depending upon what market you live in. And that's where you truly need that hour-by-hour capacity of your dehumidification equipment. The other thing that happens during lights out is your temperature drops, and relative humidity is relative to temperature, and it's an inverse relationship. So as soon as temperature drops, your relative humidity skyrockets.
Exactly.
Awesome. We had a quick question from chat. It says, Derek asks, can you touch on lung rooms? Is that something you guys incorporate into your system at all?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Just based upon the name, I haven't done any specific work.
Okay.
Maybe you can explain to me the concept.
Yeah.
Is it based upon pressure?
What was that? I'm sorry?
Is a lung room based upon pressure, like a positive or a negative or a?
I'm not sure. I've never heard of the term before either. I was just it was just a question someone asked in chat. So.
Okay. Sorry.
So I saw you guys were in High Times recently. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I believe the issue just came out today. We were featured as or highlighted by High Times' choice as the best dehumidifier, and they featured a new product of ours, which is a split system dehumidifier. So much like your split air conditioners that are out on the market, it's got an outdoor condenser, so it doesn't add any heat into your room. It's rated at 185 pints per day, and when it's running, it does 1/3 of a ton of cooling. So it's not meant to replace your air conditioner, but anybody that's realized that they need more dehumidification and are already up against the ceiling or capacity of their air conditioner, it really presents a nice option for people. The other way that I see it being used oftentimes is because when it's running, it's putting 4,300 BTUs, so that's 1/3 of a ton of cooling into the room, which pairs well with like our model 105, which would be putting in approximately 4,300 BTUs. So if you pair those two up, you're really at a zero-sum game, and you're almost at 300 pints per day worth of capacity.
Awesome.
So kind of some interesting different ways to play a couple of different pieces of equipment together to still get that most energy efficient application without really increasing the heat load in the room.
Awesome. So yeah, and that's something else that people aren't aware of, is that a lot of the dehumidifiers out there do create a lot of heat. So that's some of the different. Do you want to talk about the the differences maybe between your type of the dehumidifiers that you guys use and produce versus some of the others out there?
Sure. The heat that's being discharged into the room, for a traditional dehumidifier, you are putting the warm, dry air back in the room, and that's really important. All of our dehumidifiers are ductable, and I always try and caution people that means the dehumidifier doesn't have to be inside the room, but you do have to duct that warm air into the room and a return to the dehumidifier outside the room. If you just duct the heat out, you just really basically bought yourself a really expensive ventilation fan. The heat that's generated in your dehumidifier, some of it is based upon wattage consumption of the compressor and your impeller fan and your relays and controls and things like that. But the majority of the BTUs that are being generated are truly a function of the refrigerant system doing heat exchange. We're pulling the heat out of the air, both sensible heat, which is the temperature heat, and then latent heat, which is the moisture heat in the air. We're absorbing that heat to allow the air to cool down to the point where it hits its dew point. And that's when the water that's in the air condenses on the evaporator coil and the moisture comes out of the air. So for that refrigerant gas to change state back and do its whole job all over again, it goes through a compressor and then it goes through the condenser where that heat is exchanged back into the air. So I know that's a really kind of a complicated explanation, but that's really why a dehumidifier rejects heat back into the room. Now, where your heat savings comes in with a dehumidifier like ours is all based upon energy efficiency. So really, how much moisture are we able to pull out with every pass of air, or how many pints per day or pints per kilowatt hour is our equipment able to pull out? And so once you begin looking at us versus the competition, so our model, our Quest Dual 105 is the world's most energy efficient dehumidifier. So as it's pulling out 8.8 pints per kilowatt hour, your little Home Depot special is maybe pulling 3.8, 3.9. Same thing with a lot of the gardening company brands. So we're pulling out twice as much water with the same amount of electricity. So you're truly getting more performance. You're pulling out more water with less heat. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the gentleman who asked about the lung room says, a room separate from your grow, a place you can add your fresh air, filters, humidity, CO2, and the same place that then run the air CO2 from the lung room to the grow rooms, kind of like a lung for your grow.
Okay, essentially like the utility room.
Yeah. Kind of like a room where you'd mix up your CO2 and your fresh air, and then dehumidify it, or dial in the temp and then vent it to the rest of the rooms. Interesting concept.
I think that's pretty much what he was just describing, wasn't it? How you conduct all your stuff outside the room or whatever.
Yeah, but I guess he was just. Good.
Yeah, the deducting tends to be more of like a space savings. A lot of times we see, if you got a big warehouse grow, you've built rooms inside a warehouse, so now you have this big open, clean mezzanine above the ceiling of the rooms. So I see people, you mount your dehumidifier up there, duct the air to and from the dehumidifier, and then it's not hanging in the room. So it's one of those things from either a space perspective. I see a lot of Michigan basements. You got low hanging ceiling height. It's kind of hard to hang a dehumidifier for there and still get your plants and your lights in. So I can put it outside the room and duct the air to and from the dehumidifier. To answer the participant's question, I guess I haven't seen a lung room utilized a whole lot, just simply because most people are doing it right in the garden. So, I mean, they're conditioning the air right in the garden. They're dehumidifying the air right in the garden. They're running their CO2 tank and regulators right inside the garden. I guess I might ask the question: what other benefits am I missing? I don't want to, for lack of a better word, poo-poo the idea. I just when you can do it in one room.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I think so. One of the projects I'm working on, or have been helping out and working with, is and I've talked about this on the show before, and I've even posted it, I think, a few times on Facebook. There's a gentleman who I did a bunch of consulting work for, ran a place. He's just sold the farm, actually. It's called Turtle Island Farms in Colorado, and him and his wife are just moving because they want to get out of Colorado. But for a long time, I think it was almost 5 years, he had a successful aquaponic cannabis mushroom business, and he's now saved up a bunch of money, and they're going to take a couple months off and travel around and see the world, and then they're working on a new project. But what was really cool is that he has this. Uses mushrooms and rooms of mushrooms and mycelium to generate CO2, which he then vents out into his greenhouses where the plants are. And that the lung room sounds like that might be a good place to exchange in the right, make sure you're getting the right amount of CO2, and have kind of like an in-between room where you could kind of build up or burn, vent off some of the extra CO2 based on where you were at with the mushroom production that given day.
I think
seems like a really cool.
I think the lung room concept works. It makes sense if you're going to regularly ventilate.
Mm-hmm.
So if I burp off my room, or if I purge my room, I want to bring in air that is correctly conditioned or correctly supplemented, and allow it to do its thing while I'm conditioning air in my lung room. And then I burp it off again, and I bring air in again. So can you dehumidify in that circumstance? Absolutely. It ends up being a little more of a calculation based upon what your seasonal ambient conditions are outside. So what's the worst case dew point air that we're going to bring in wherever you live, and then you use that worst case temperature and humidity air, and what your CFM rate is being pulled into that room, and then you size your dehumidifier based upon that.
Now, what's a normal cleaning procedure for something like a dehumidifier? Because something that's pulling in that much air and that much water seems like it might be a vector for, pathogens potentially.
I'd say regularly checking and monitoring the status of your filter is the first step to maintaining the cleanliness in the inside of your dehu. We're constantly suggesting to our end users, checking these filters monthly and absolutely changing them every cycle. I would say that's my first step to maintaining the cleanliness.
Yeah, I would agree. Ultimately, the rate at which you need to change your filter is all going to be based upon how much airborne particulate is in any room. There's a lot of good common sense practices, like turn your dehumidifier off when you're doing foliar feedings. You don't want to pull that junk through your into the filter or through that dehumidifier. The other big maintenance is to regularly check, clean, and/or replace your drain hose. So we do get a lot of people that reuse the water coming out of their dehumidifier. It's basically distilled water, and some of the things that we do in manufacturing help the quality of that water. Multiple water tests where you have to measure things in parts per billion to come up with any heavy metals or anything like that. But
that was just going to be my next question. Is that a lot of the dehumidifiers out there use copper or zinc condensers, and that can be a problem for people doing aquaponics, but it sounds like you guys have that solved.
Yeah, so the evaporator coil, which is where the water condenses, traditionally is a copper tube with aluminum fins that are pressed upon it. And then the copper tubing at both ends of that coil are usually brazed on to the refrigerant system with a silver solder. So you also get silver as another potential heavy metal. One of the things that we do as a manufacturer, we powder coat our coils, which is an added cost, and it does a couple of things for us. So like the condenser radiator on your car, when you pop the hood, that radiator has been powder coated. So it's got a black, very strong paint over it. So going through that powder coating process, it has to go through a solvent bath, which also helps remove any of the residual processing oils. When they press those fins on that copper tubing, they use oil to help it slide on. And then it has the paint application and goes through a high temperature oven that changes that powder into a liquid paint, and then it cures. So you don't have any water to copper, or water to aluminum, or water to silver solder contact. The other thing it does for you is it puts another layer of protection. We've all seen a copper penny corrode, right? Same thing happens to your coil. And having that layer of protection there helps the longevity of your equipment.
Awesome.
Another reason why we're able to offer a 5-year warranty on our equipment.
That's a really long time for something with a condenser like that.
Yeah. I think where I was going with that conversation.
That's great. No, just about how safe with the condenser being safer because it's powder coated. It's great to know that people could take that water and run it directly back into their sump if they wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get, especially with some of the water limitations that have been put on customers in certain states, California being one of them. When you start looking at the water usage in many of these cultivations, I mean, it's mind blowing that we can reuse just about 98% of everything that we're feeding. Really has a bottom line impact on costs when you start looking at your water bill.
So the plants are only using. So then your only loss is that 2% for biomass in the plants, or?
Well, so yeah, when we start talking about, you will have loss of water vapor through your structure. So I'm not claiming I'm going to recapture 98% of every gallon that you put in your room. But when we start looking at how much water we can capture and reuse. Now, this kind of conversation started with the whole drain line question. So, you know, one of the things with our drain line is we always recommend that you put a P-trap in the drain line. And if you're not familiar with a P-trap, like if you open your bathroom sink and look under it, you'll see that it makes a U-shaped dip so that it holds water in the bottom of that dip. In your bathroom, that serves the function of not letting sewer gas come back up up through the sink, smell-wise. Your toilet does the same thing. With our dehumidifier, it's important that you have a P-trap in your drain line because we're moving so much air through that dehumidifier. It's possible that it could be sucking air up the drain line and not cause the water to drain out. And then you'd have a leaking type of issue. But what that P-trap does, so when you unbox your Quest dehumidifier, we give you a clear vinyl drain hose. Now, the drawback of that clear vinyl drain hose is that light from the room can penetrate into the hose, and with the standing water in that hose, eventually you will grow something in that hose. The value of the clear vinyl drain hose is you can see when you have a problem. And it's your clue to go ahead and replace the drain hose or give it a good cleaning. If people don't like that, I oftentimes recommend going to a blackout hose, or I get a lot of people that will just hard plumb their PVC pipe to the unit. And when they do that, I always recommend that they install a clean out on that drain trap. There's even off-the-shelf ones that have little end caps that pop off and a brush that comes with it that you should just swipe the brush through a few times and clean out your drain line.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd never even thought about that with the P-trap on the dehumidifier lines. It's really interesting, and I never even thought of that. It almost works like a reverse Venturi in that way, if you get enough draft.
Yeah, we it's probably within our top 10 questions. You know, people will call us and say, for some reason my dehumidifier is dripping from the corner. Well, you don't have a trap in the drain line. No, really?
So you touched a little bit on how important it is to maintain, below 55% humidity. Do you want to talk about how maybe the differences between a home dehumidifier unit and then maybe a commercial unit in terms of how they function?
Sure. There's a couple of things that come into play. One is going to be capacity. It's probably the most relevant thing to a gardener. Depending upon the size of the cultivation, that's where that water in, water out calculation is super helpful. Somebody with a very small basement or closet grow doesn't need a dehumidifier, the size that Quest manufactures. And I don't want to give the wrong impression that we're like super huge commercial dehumidifiers. We're definitely a commercial quality. On the high end of capacity, we're probably at somebody that's watering 10 gallons or more a day in their garden. Some of the other differences in a home dehumidifier, most of what you're going to find in residential stuff is going to be, again, Chinese built. It's not designed for the rigors of being used 24 hours a day in a garden. So characteristically, we always hear of the high failure rate of those pieces of equipment, and tends to be where people enter their career in cannabis cultivation, and they'll play that game for a while, and their dehumidifier will break, and they'll go replace it, and it'll break again, and they might replace it, or they'll have a crop loss type of scenario. And then they tend to step up and graduate to Quest, just based upon, we're really known as a reliable quality piece of equipment. Certainly that warranty attests to that. And our energy efficiency, and that's really where, as a manufacturer, we hang our hat on energy efficiency. One of the things that we highlight in our brochures is kind of this 5-year look at what your electrical, your utility expense is going to be just based upon your dehumidifier. And sometimes it's shocking how you could pay for your Quest dehumidifier 2, maybe 3 times over based upon the inefficiency of the alternatives out there. So kind of that not so short-sighted view of what your return on investment is.
Absolutely.
Jared, would you have anything to add with against?
I was just going to say, and then when looking at our product line, if you were to make a comparison, between units typically seen in a commercial space versus the home, home being where space is an issue, I'm usually guiding our end users to our 10 series. It's just our smaller units. And I've been finding in Colorado that a lot of my guys that are have their facilities at home or in their basement, the 10 series has been popular, whereas the 5 series is something you'll definitely see in those a lot larger warehouse spaces, large greenhouses, etc.
So for everybody out there, we call the 5 series, we have our model, they all end in 5s, the 105, the 155, the 205, the 225. And those are really our most energy efficient dehumidifiers. They use some patented heat exchange that helps us pull more pints per kilowatt hour. Our 10 series is kind of our entry level unit. It's a little smaller form factor, a little lower price point, and not quite as energy efficient, but still more energy efficient than 90% of the dehumidifiers you see on the market. So it's a real nice alternative for some of the people that are finally stepping up out of the cheap Chinese stuff and stepping into Quest. So it's a little easier price point for those people that are reaching.
Awesome. I'm trying to look through a list of questions we were talked about here. Talked about the different sizes. Is there any tips and tricks you guys have aside from the P-trap for dehumidifiers in general and running or maintaining yours at home?
I feel like Coleman really covered it. I mean, the use of a P-trap, the blackout tube is definitely a great way to mitigate that if you're not able to do the investment on PVC and hardwire. I'd say if you're reclaiming that water into a tank, just being cognizant of the fact that maybe having a lid on that, especially if it's going to be in the room, you're going to have an open, open body of water in your room that dehu is going to be working to dehumidify that water evaporating off that surface.
Awesome. Do you want to talk about, so you guys have a bunch of different units. Do you want to talk about which unit for which size room, what size grow, so that people out there, might have an idea on what they're looking at as far as maybe price point and, coverage. You guys talked already about water in and water out, but did you have any kind of size?
Sorry, my computer shut down for a moment.
No problem.
One of the other things I always try and highlight is, we also offer a lot of different, control options. We also pair real nicely with a lot of the other controls that are real popular in the industry, as far as, whether it's our friends at SmartBee or Aquaponic or Agritech or Honeywell, or, you name the environmental controller, even the stuff from Titan and all the control manufacturers, Wadsworth. We've got the ability to depending upon the model, our stuff out of the box characteristically has an onboard humidistat, so it's a real easy plug and play scenario. It doesn't require an HVAC contractor to install. Our units have characteristically, our biggest unit, the 225, always had a low voltage control option, but we've rolled that out to the rest of our 5 series units. So if somebody wants to step up their game and start using a little more high functionality environmental controller, we can pair right in with that as well. There's a lot of different options as far as controlling your dehumidifier other than turning a control knob and dialing it in.
You were also talking, right before the show about you guys are working on a new type of sensor or integrated sensors into your units.
I was just about to touch upon just the location of our sensor currently, and that if you are going to be ducting your unit and keeping your 105 or 110 outside of the room, is just being sure that you have your sensor and controller inside of the actual room. If not, the dehu is going to be going off of the the RH settings that are outside of your room.
Yeah, with your dehumidification equipment, you do need to be cognizant of the layout of the other HVAC, ducting or location in the room. If you park your dehumidifier right next to the discharge of your AC is going to be blowing cold, dry air on your dehumidifier and it won't turn on. These are some easy things sometimes to overlook for people. We briefly touched on some of the controls that we work with. We do also manufacture our own digital control that mounts outside the room, and so you don't have to go in the room to change a setting, and has a remote sensor in the room that you can then place on the wall or hanging down in the canopy, depending upon where you want that sensor location to be at to read the condition of the room and make that decision. Was that what you were touching on, Steve?
Yep, and it's I'm glad you touched on that too, because there's a lot of not only air ducting but and humidity, but sometimes people will put temperature sensors or I've seen people put their air vent sensors accidentally not run it through with the ventilation for their temperatures, and their light sensors they'll not put it in the inline with the housing, and always double check that. And the other thing too is when you're labeling your sensors, when you're running them long distances, take a piece of masking tape and just write what the hell it's going to and what area it should be in, so that when you're trying to fish these through the lines, or you got a bunch of them together, you can one of them goes wrong, because these little sensors, temperature sensors, eventually after enough years and enough electricity goes through them, they're going to need to be replaced or failed. So you will need to eventually maintenance these, or long-term replace them occasionally. So making sure that you have them properly labeled makes your life infinitely easier, and it's something that takes an extra 30 seconds when you're installing them. I also saw that
that's really good advice.
I also saw that you guys are featured. I saw a really cool article you guys did that was in Cannabis Business Times. Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit? It's kind of almost like a good guide on a guide and FAQ on the different aspects of humidity.
Yeah, that came out this week. I believe you've got a copy of it that you might put up that people can access. Otherwise, it's on Cannabis Business Times website under their research drop-down menu. It's just called the Smart Humidity Report. Along with them, we conducted some surveys, asking some good questions of cultivators, just kind of seeing what kind of conditions people are operating their rooms at, along with some other interview content that really kind of looks at the big picture of how humidity affects your garden, what attributes it can bring, and it's really more of an educational piece than any kind of. It's certainly not sales literature. I'm super proud of what they were able to put together there for us. So definitely check that out. Definitely a good read. You might need to give yourself a good 15, 20 minutes to buzz through it.
Yep, and I have it up on the screen now if you guys want the URL. I'll also include the URL in the description under their information so that you can click it and make it easy to find.
That's great. Thank you.
Yep. I gotta stop sharing here.
Yeah, as a company, we've always kind of taken a lot of pride on some of the research and education tools that we've been able to bring. You know, we've got a nice white paper written on vapor pressure deficit that really helps put things a little more in the layman terms, and does do you know, enough of a deep dive that you can really get into the math and science of it. As well as powdery mildew. You know, we you know, I started looking around just for, you know, a comprehensive document on powdery mildew, and there wasn't really anything out there that I was able to find, just little bits here and there. And so we've, you know, put together a nice paper. You know, I thought it was going to be just you know, a 2-page read, and it ended up coming back, you know, I think it was well over 10 pages worth of content understanding powdery mildew, which is, if you like to geek out on stuff like that, we can certainly share that as well. You know, what we do in the industry is so education based. Dehumidifiers aren't sexy. They you know, they really are an insurance policy, you know, against mold and botrytis, and you know, it's a little harder for people to understand how dehumidification will increase your yield and your quality. Whether you know it or not, once you institute dehumidification in your garden, you are applying some of the principles of vapor pressure deficit. So just a little side comment for you.
Do you want to touch a little bit on that? We've had both Spectrum King and Black Dog LED both touched on how VPD is, you know, it's very important to know to not so much adjust for the room temperature, but the plant temperature itself, the leaf surface temperature. And they've both had pretty good explanations. But do you want to tell people, maybe for people that are just joining us now, a little bit about VPD and what it is and why it's important? Maybe it just, you know, you don't have to necessarily do the white paper, but
yeah, you know, I guess the layman's terms explanation that I always provide people is, you know, based upon the temperature and the humidity of the room, that has a direct effect on the stomata in the leaf. And the stomata, you know, is a two-way street. It has to be able to give off water vapor and oxygen and uptake CO2. And when the plant is happy, that two-way street is effectively moving in both directions. As soon as your humidity is too high, that two-way street becomes, you know, restricted. And if it's too dry, the same thing happens, and you're basically not creating the optimal environment for that plant to grow. So again, very rudimentary layman's terms. The other thing I always caution people on is, you know, if you look at a VPD chart, there are a lot of bad conditions on that chart for cannabis. You know, might work great sometimes for tomatoes, might work great for peppers, you know, but you're growing a stacked leaf flower. There's a lot of conditions on there that aren't good. And then we go down that road of, can you get away with it for a while? Yeah, maybe. But as soon as we do have problems with powdery mildew or botrytis, really it comes down to we have to hold a condition where that mold can't grow, and that's where your dehumidification is your best friend. If we can hold it, you know, at 50%, we're not going to have mold problems. The next step beyond that is really dialing in your airflow. you have to have air passes, across that flower in order to be able to give it an opportunity to give up the water vapor. So that's another critical piece that we've recently introduced an under canopy air mover that pulls your air down through your canopy and keeps it low on the ground as it discharges it back in the room. Kind of a complementary piece that has a lot of really great features on it, but really playing into that. Not only do you need dehumidification, but you also need air passes in order for that water to be able to be given up as a water vapor. A lot of times I give people an example they can really grasp onto is, you got a puddle on the floor. You can park a dehumidifier in front of that puddle, and that puddle will be there all day while your dehumidifier is running. As soon as I put a fan in front of it, that puddle's gone in an hour. That's the air passes showing you how that every passive air allows an opportunity for that water to be given up as a vapor.
Awesome, that was a great explanation. Do you want to talk a little bit, or maybe just touch on maybe the ideal, or in a perfect world, or target VPD? So, was it about 85 to 87 degrees at the leaf surface and around 50% humidity, or is there a particular range or anything is perfect for cannabis that you want to recommend to people?
So I'm always a little hesitant to give any recommendations. Just how do I put this in good terms? For me, the key is not allowing conditions that will have the potential to propagate mold. Beyond that, you can look at the chart. You can see conditions from a temperature standpoint that will coincide with those lower relative humidities. It doesn't have to be high temperature, high humidity to get that effective opening of the stomata. I have a chart in front of me here.
Yeah, I was just curious, especially with you saying that, a lot of the ranges are not good for cannabis specifically, just kind of what would be a good range for people that are out there trying to aim for. So, sorry to throw you a curveball.
No, that's okay. Let me pull up a chart here.
Did you have any questions there, BrayneGro? You chimed in a little bit.
Not really that I can think of, Steve. I mean, they pretty much covered everything, and you really asked the question and got them talking about vapor pressure deficit. That's what I was really interested in hearing from.
So you also touched on air movement. Do you want to maybe extrapolate on that? Is there a certain, CFM per, cubic foot of grow space or anything, or canopy size, or any kind of formula you use for just air movement? So, go along with your dehumidifiers and for, proper VPD, because like you were just saying, and that's something I don't think I've heard emphasized before about VPD, is that a VPD, you can have the temperature dialed in, you can have the humidity dialed in, but if there's air ain't moving, those plants ain't going to do much of anything in terms of exchange. So do you want to, that's a really awesome point that I haven't heard before. And is there a certain, air movement rate or anything like that, or a formula to determine that you can recommend to people? Or
so I've never seen any formulas as it comes to gardening. I guess most of the experience with airflow that we have is I would have to call it anecdotal. Use of our fan in conjunction with your traditional oscillating air movers above canopy. And that's really what we've seen is, you've got a lot of, once your canopy develops in your room, you've got a lot of really nice oscillating air movement above the canopy, but we end up seeing pockets of stagnant air where PM might pop off under the canopy. The air mover that we've designed, it's a top draw fan, so it pulls the air down through the canopy, and with your overhead Quest dehumidifier, it's also pulling that dehumidified air down through that canopy. Again, kicking it low on the ground, so it's got a real nice residual benefit of any CO2 that's pulled on the ground. We kick that back up in the room for to make it accessible for the plants again. Our fan it's a 925 CFM fan, and we're using that fan approximately every 200 square feet, or as small as a 100 square foot garden. You get below that, and it's really too much fan for it. But it's got a lot of really nice features. You know, at 925 CFM, it only pulls 1.9 amps, so it's a real low effective amp draw. It's got a GFCI on it, which is like what you find in your bathroom if you drop your hair dryer in the bathtub. It protects you from a shock hazard. So the fan being on the floor of your grow room, if it gets wet and you're standing in the puddle, it's not a shock hazard. But it also lets us daisy chain them, and at 1.9 amps, you can get up to 6 of them on a 15 amp circuit. So a lot of air movement potential out of a 15 amp circuit.
There's a really good.
The list of features goes on and on. So
there's something we should definitely touch on, and I don't think we've touched more than 1 or 2 times on the show. Never put any electrical unit that might have any exposed electrical parts on the floor of your grow, and that includes ballasts. You know, anything. Always put it on a cinder block. You know, or any, a piece of wood. Literally anything just to get it 3 inches off the ground, because if a seal breaks or something, you can I've seen it happen in pet shops where someone broke a heater at a tank or something, and suddenly half the room has got live electricity across it, and it's like, it's just a safety thing. So always make sure you mount them up, at least 3 or 4 feet off the wall, especially in an aquaponic system where you have a little bit more water in the room. Otherwise, you might get a pretty electrifying evening.
Yeah, it's one of the other nice things about having that GFI on the fan. When you do need an outlet in the room, you're hitting an outlet that's protected at that point as well. One of the other things that we've recently put into the market is a HEPA air filter. It really comes from some of our heritage of what we do in flood restoration and mold remediation. So it's called the H5, H like HEPA, 5, because it's 500 CFM. But it's a true HEPA filter, and it's a suitcase style package. Again, has a GFI on it, has a variable speed fan, has a vacuum switch that tells you when the pre-filter needs to be replaced. So it's packaged with the HEPA and a pre-filter above it. So the pre-filter gets replaced regularly before you're executing or running through the HEPA, which is really the high dollar consumable. Had a lot of people really interested in that, on the medical side. Again, it's one more step in mitigation of mold, just because HEPA will capture a mold spore size particle. So you're able to capture that in the filter, and then you dispose of the filter. The other thing that it does, the larger and larger cultivations get and the more employees they have, you've got a lot of airborne particulate that happens in those rooms because of some of the aggressive air movement. And this is one step that helps remove some of that super fine particulate that would otherwise be impacted in an employee's lungs. I briefly mentioned I did a stint on the construction rental side of our business. Every hospital that gets built, they run HEPA air filtration because they want to make sure that the air quality during that build is of the highest quality, so that you don't have workers or patients or employees getting sick, that type of thing.
Yeah, to build on what Coleman was saying, I've been seeing at 2 of my accounts, 2 end users of ours here in the Denver area, also mentioned in that smart humidity report, both at Medicine Man and at the Herbal Cure, they're utilizing the H5 in their harvesting rooms, where you have your staff constantly trimming. There's, lots of particle going on there, and you're constantly hearing about people sneezing and having sinus issues in that room in particular. And it's been well received. Those HEPA filters are designed to take out 99.97% of these small particles. So that's where I've been suggesting a lot of those units be placed.
And that's great. I never even thought about that. But yeah, trim rooms often do get just coated in resin everywhere, and you got that fine, broken trikes that float around the room. And I never even thought about that. But that's wonderful. That that's definitely something that people should definitely consider doing, is putting better air movement and dehumidifiers and particulate filters in their rooms for their employees doing the trimming. Something I haven't heard of. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to work for a company that really takes a wide look at some of the opportunities in this type of market, and where we've got crossover knowledge from our engineering staff. We're a very engineering heavy company with a lot of manufacturing experience, and that really ends up being why we've got the name that we do in the market. Is just always looking at innovation, always looking at efficiency, energy efficiency, and always with that quality, reliability in the back of mind.
Awesome. Well, did you guys have anything else you guys wanted to touch on? I really appreciate you guys joining us. You guys have been with us about an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your evening, but was there anything other things you guys wanted to touch on? And then do you want to tell people how to find you?
Absolutely.
The only thing that we really didn't bring out regarding our product line was just we manufacture portables. We've done that for a long time, as far as units that are easier to move around for greenhouse applications, drying, supplemental dehumidification. I always caution people that when you buy a portable dehumidifier like that, you're really paying for handles and wheels and condensate pump and that rugged durability to go in and out of a truck. So if you don't need the portability, we can certainly get you much more performance for your dollar. But for that right customer, for the right need, we fill that void as well. And I've been doing that for a very long time. So with that, I'll say thanks, Steve. I appreciate you having us on the show. A great opportunity.
Thank you. Actually, I have one last question. Do you have any specific units that are maybe more designed for, maybe drying rooms or that kind of application, or do you suggest someone using the same kind of one they would use in their grow?
It would really get down to what dry weight they're looking to achieve, and that's how we would calculate what unit. I've been seeing a lot of 5 series, so our larger unit, and the 105 and the 155 I've sized for several curing and drying rooms out here in Colorado. A lot of people gravitating towards that just due to the low energy draw, and really just reducing their cost there in the long term. But it would really, in order to size for a room of that nature, you would want to know, how much wet weight is going in, and what they're looking to achieve, or what they have historically been achieving before.
And what is the typical power draw for the some of your units? I know people out there are trying to make sure they have a nice amp draw, and so a lot of people put in. I always suggest putting in at least a sub panel for your grow room, because it's the safe thing to do. Add more redundancy and just prevent yourself from having a fire. Or not even that, losing your equipment.
Let's see here. So,
sorry to ask you a weird technical question.
No problem. So the range for our product line, lowest being 4.9 amps draw is what the 105 is, and then highest being in our 10 series, I believe, is the actually it might be even, yeah, it is the 10 series. So the 150 dual is 11 amp draw. So, oh no, sorry, 205. Sorry, my apologies. But I guess your question being what amperature they need to have, what circuit they need to have in their facility.
Well, no, I guess how many amps should people how many amps should people dedicate on an electrical panel specifically for dehumidifying if they're just doing, say a 4 light or something like that, a standard home grow.
Holman, would you be able
It's going to be less than a 15 amp circuit.
Yeah.
Okay. I just so I do a lot of build outs and stuff like that, and managing the amps. You build out all the equipment, put everything in there, and then figure out how much power you're pulling, and then all that stuff. So
yeah, for a small cultivation like that, you are probably looking at one of the smallest 30 pint dehumidifiers on the market that you might need. Which is something that Quest really doesn't touch on a unit that small. We can still do it. We'll just run a lot less. So if anybody has any questions on sizing a room, sizing for a drying room, we didn't really talk a whole lot about greenhouse applications and things like that. There's our sales staff is always open and welcome to discuss those things and try and provide people the tools to get their answers.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'd love to hear from you.
And if you guys are trying to find them, definitely be sure to check out their links. I put a link to their company, Quest Hydro, on there, as well as a email address for Jared if you want to email him directly. I'll get the one from Coleman, and we'll get that on there. And I'll also include the links that we were looking at earlier. So if you guys have any questions, you don't even have to research these guys. Just click the link in the thing you're listening to, and it'll be right there for you.
Absolutely. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Yep, and thank you guys again for taking the time to join us and talk to us about this. And we haven't had anyone that was able to come on the show and speak about dehumidifiers, and you guys, I again very much appreciate you guys taking the time to come on and telling us about, you guys are pretty much one of the best, if not the best company out there doing this for the cannabis industry. So thanks again for all you guys do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Look forward to the next opportunity.
Yep, thank you. Have a great day.
Bye now.
All right, bye now.
How's it going, BrayneGro?
Pretty good. Actually, just barely got done making some hash while I was while we've been sitting here doing the podcast. So, looking forward to that tomorrow or whatever.
What you making?
I'm probably just gonna leave it as bubble. I did 3 runs, and probably of the first run, I'll definitely be leaving the 120 through the 73. I'll be leaving probably all the way down to the 25, because those are all the ones that tend to have a pretty good melt factor. So I'm going to leave those ones alone, and then with the rest of it, I'll probably throw it into some edibles or something like that. Maybe smoke it with a joint or something like that.
How many bags do you run total?
Well, I have an 8-bag kit that does the 220, the 190, the 160, the 120, the 90, the 73, the 45, and the 25.
Awesome.
I don't really tend to use the 45 that much. I like to, I don't know, it seems kind of redundant, I skip it sometimes, but I did run it on the first run. And then on my second and third runs, I usually just run the 190.
That's funny.
For that pre-filtration. And then I'll go to the 120, then the 73, and the 25 on the second and third runs.
So you don't bother running a 160 at all?
160? No, I don't have a 160 bag. Wait, do I?
Do you find much of a difference between the 25 and the 45 in terms of quality?
Oh yeah, actually I do have a 160 bag, my bad. I just came over here and looked real quick. Quality definitely seems pretty similar on the 25 and the 45. I really like if I had to say best quality, I would definitely say the 120, the 90, and the 73 have the best quality as far as
Yeah.
the taste goes, especially. They always seem to have the most
It seemed
full
to yield more
effect.
too.
Yeah, definitely. On this one, let's see, I got.
It also depends on age, though. I've noticed really old stuff will be much heavier in the 73 and below.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I actually did. I cut this plant down and ran it just right away. It looks like I got a pretty good yield on the 90
You ran
and
it.
the 73.
You run it wet or did you dry it first?
Yeah, I ran it fresh. No, I didn't dry it. I ran it fresh.
Oh, damn. That's cool.
And then I'm probably going to. Well, I already put the work bag with the ice. I already put that in a bucket so the ice can melt and I can use that material as or for some edibles or something like that is probably what I'm going to use it for.
Mm.
I was planning on trying to do a little bit dry sifting today because I had a couple of jars of the CBD therapy, so I have plenty of that, and I left out, I think it was about 4 grams, just a pretty small amount, just so I can do a little bit of dry sifting.
Mm-hmm.
Left it out yesterday so it can dry up, and it's still got some moisture left, so I'll probably have to give it another 24 hours before I can really dry sift this stuff effectively.
What is your dry sifting bubble or flour?
No, I'm gonna dry sift the flower from the CBD. The strain that I ran in the bubble bags was the green alien.
Yeah, do you do it wet often? Do you find a difference in yield? I've never tried to do bubble with fresh cut. That's interesting.
No, I mean not really any difference in yield. I kind of calculated it to where as if it was dried. So I started with about 30 grams of material this time. So I kind of equate that to if it was dry material, I would have been somewhere around a 1/4 ounce. So it would be somewhere around a 1/4 ounce dry. So it looks like I got around probably a good 1.5 to 2 grams here. So I'm looking forward to smoking that over the next few days.
Man, but that's right. You use like a 1 gallon setup, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Okay.
I have the 5 gallon, but I just haven't happened to use them yet.
I just bought a 20 gallon setup. Like,
oh, nice.
But yeah, it's kind of weird. I've never done a 1 gallon. To me, it's like I've never thought
pretty
of it.
small.
It's so small. Like,
yeah.
if I'm not getting like an ounce at least out of that bubble bags, total, like it's not worth my time. But I guess it's in Cali where you can get trimmed by the trash bag, so it's not like
right. Yeah, I don't exactly have it like that over here.
Oh yeah. Well, what was interesting? There was a company I was talking to that was interested in trying to do some kind of, I think it was THCV and CBN extract on roots, which I thought was kind of wonky. Oh, actually,
on
here.
Roots,
so
huh?
yeah. So some people out there never heard of, or maybe aren't familiar with bubble hash. We're talking about the different microns and stuff. Do you want to maybe tell people what your method is with it? As far as how it all works. Some people just haven't made their own bubble hash at home. For those of you guys who don't know, bubble hash is one of the easiest and safest hashes to make at home. It's just ice, water, and a couple filter bags. It's about it. It's about as safe as it gets. So
yeah, super simple.
A little bit of agitation. We take a drill. We have a whisk that we bought on at the grocery store, and rip through, and it's got flutes on it. And it's a harder plastic, and it just spins it, but it's really soft, smooth on the edges, so it doesn't rip the bags. And it works really good. But I actually have a bubble machine unit coming up, and that'll be nice because it'll automate everything. I just throw it in, zip the bag, turn the machine on, out comes the bubble.
Yeah, and I was thinking about getting one of those little washing machine units for mine, but I was like, it's real simple, and right now I'm only doing 1 gallon batches, so.
Yeah.
The drill with the wooden spoon method works pretty good for me. But I mean, as far as the method goes, really all you need is the equipment. You can buy, I think, anywhere from like a 2 to a 4 to a 8-bag kit.
Yep.
And
I think they even have 12
all you're
and 20
doing,
bag. Like they have like some ridiculous, because all it is for people that aren't aware is it's just the screen printing sizes they use for t-shirt screen printing. So depending on the
right?
color and the thickness of the ink and a few others. So, and that's the same thing with dry sift. If you guys are trying to make dry sift and maybe you're in a less than legal country or an area, excuse me, a less than legal country or a less than legal state or something like that, you can just go to the t-shirt store and buy the material and make your own, filters. Or you can also go to the store and buy your own t-shirt screens, with the frames on them. And those are great for dry sifting. You stack them up on top of each other. You grind against the top one with your credit card, pass the trim over it, grind it into it. And then you can get a whole set of those for maybe $60-$70, for 3 or 4 sets of screens with frames. So, they run as $12-$13 each, depending on who you're getting it from.
Yeah, I actually just barely uploaded the dry sifting video for the screens that I made, and it actually came out to, for all 4 screens that I made, I just used a wooden frame, and the total calculated down was less than $5 for all 4 screens for me to make. Because I bought the material on Amazon, and it came in 3-yard sections, 3 yards by 63 inches, which is way more than what you need to do a dry sifting screen. You can make several dry sifting screens and sell some to your buddies and make your money back if you want to go that route. But
then you got to compete with them with dry sift, though.
It's
not the only guy with dry sift in the area.
Right. But it's really simple. I mean, it's a matter of stretching your own screen across a frame. It's real easy. And the screen is very durable, so it's pretty hard to fuck up unless you're just not pulling it tight enough. That's the only way you're gonna mess it up, really. So I mean, the screens that I made on the video, they're not, of 100% awesome quality, but it's better than paying $200 for a 4-screen set or $400 from different websites, because the fact of the matter is that just because you're using it for a separate purpose, there are retailers that will buy screen printing frames that already have the screens applied to them and boost the cost like 5 times and sell that to you as a dry sifting screen. Right. And that is all they are doing. So if you're interested in buying a dry sifting screen and not making your own like I did, then at least go for screen printing frames and just get the different micron sizes that you need. And you can easily look that up. I mean, as far as the mesh sizes, they sell the material in mesh. They don't sell it in micron. So I actually have the sizes written down right here in front of me, so I can kind of go over those real quickly. The 60 mesh tends to be the top screen, which is a 250 micron. So 60 mesh equals 250 micron. And then the 90 mesh is the second screen, and that is a 165 micron. And then below that one is the 110, and that goes to 149 micron. And then the smallest size screen is the 200 mesh with the 75 micron. And that's the one that you're going to be using to do all your cleaning and really purifying your dry sift whenever you get down to it. I don't really have it down yet. I'm fixing to do some practicing with this first amount of flour that I have here, so I'm looking forward to that. But other than that, yeah, that pretty much, I think that pretty much covers it for dry sifting.
What about for bubble? So what is your method with bubble?
Well, well, just to start from the very, very bottom, as far as your ice cubes go, you will more than likely want to make your own ice cubes out of distilled water, unless you're doing something like on the scale that you're talking about, a 20-gallon bag. You'd be making ice cubes for days for that.
Yep.
But
We buy ice by the 10-pound bag. So
is it from like distilled or reverse osmosis water or something like that?
yeah.
That's the only thing. A lot of these ice makers around here, they'll just use tap water to make their ice or whatever. And the tap water here has a lot of bad stuff in it. So you'll never want to use tap water to make your ice, generally speaking. You'll never really want to use tap water to make your ice. And then again, I use distilled water for my water that I use while I stir it around. And I simply attach a wooden spoon to a drill. And for my first run, I usually do it about 8 minutes, and I do it a lot more gently than I do my second and third runs. Because your first run, you're really going for your top quality. And then the second and third runs, you're really just trying to get whatever's left there. The second and third runs, I usually do them about 10 to 12 minutes or something like that. Sometimes by the time I get down to the last run, my ice is pretty melted, so sometimes I don't really do a third one. But
I guess
that's pretty much all there is to it.
That's interesting. So when I do it, we always put in ice, and by the time we just run it for about 10 minutes or so, and then after those 10 minutes, I've beaten that shit out of that plant material so badly I've damn near melted most of the ice. So
right. Yeah, this time around when I got down to the third one, I had very little ice, so I didn't put too much effort into that. I was realizing that most of my ice was gone, so I was like, well, I'm not going to be doing a very effective third run here, so just kind of, I think I ended it probably around like 7 minutes or so.
Yep. So Chicken Hole says, what about dry ice? So dry ice is interesting. You can take bubble bags, throw your plant material in it, throw your dry ice in it for 3 to 5 minutes, and then shake it on top above a plate, and you'll get a ton of keef that'll come right off of that. The problem is you'll also get a ton of frozen plant material that happened to shatter and flake off because it got so cold, and you'll end up with a dirtier material. Now, you will get an increase in yield, but that increase in yield is actually just frozen, flaked plant material. Not, and the longer, you do two, three good shakes, and that's going to be your best, maybe even 5 shakes, that's going to be your good stuff. Then, let it chill for another 20 30 seconds, give it a few more shakes, and that's like your next lower grade stuff. But it just doesn't work out quite as good.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that. Whenever you're doing the dry ice sifting method, you're definitely getting a lot more contaminant and a lot less trichomes in that material. So you'll I don't know. People still do it, but it's really just depends on what you feel like your style is,
Yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't do it because it comes out crappier. I can get, for this,
yeah, I've never done it.
It's a little faster. I mean, maybe if I had an ungodly amount of trim, like even more, so much to where I thought bubble was stupid, which that'd be a lot of trim.
Right.
There's just no, especially for an inferior product, or for example, like what I'm doing with the bubble, I take the bubble and press it into rosin. I don't want to press the stuff that's going to make the rosin taste like butt. And then not only that, when it burns in people's dabbers, it's going to leave behind like an ash and a film that normally, really good extracts shouldn't leave much at all behind. So, it's just going to make it for, an inferior product. It'll be harsher. It'll actually combust a little bit rather than, melting the way it should.
Right.
Oh, so Derek asks, Stoner thought, what if you were to use really cold air and agitate your mix with bubble bags versus mix it by hand or machine? I've never tried that. I don't see why that wouldn't work, but it just would be mechanically maybe not as viable. There is a cold extract method, which I think I've touched on before on the show, where you take your plant material, throw it in a big glass salad bowl or other salad bowl, glass works best. Then throw your plant material in, wait, 2 or 3 minutes for that to freeze. Throw your dry ice on top with the dry ice on top, good layer of dry ice, pelletized dry ice. Then take your highest proof alcohol and get your hands on. 97% gin, Everclear, moonshine, whatever you get your grubby little hands on. Take that, pour it into the bowl with the dry ice and the plant material. It's now mostly frozen. And what will happen is that dry ice is super cold, but the alcohol won't freeze because it's super high alcohol content. So you get this rolling heavy boil. It's like a cold boil. And it does a super, super ultra cold extract into the alcohol. And that's how you can get, so what that does is it dissolves all the terpenes and cannabinoids and gland heads off into the alcohol. Then what you can do is once that roll almost is coming to a near almost ending, you want to immediately, almost all the dry ice is boiled off. You don't want to wait until it's completely happened because it'll affect the flavor of it. But if you wait, get it to where it's almost done, quickly strain it, put it into a crock pot, and evaporate it off until you're left with a tincture that you want. The benefit to this is you can make a cannabis tincture that has little to no cannabis flavor. That's doing it super cold will pull next to none of the cannabis flavoring out of it. So if you want to give it to someone that hates cannabis, or maybe a family member that doesn't use the cannabis and they're giving them for cancer or something, it's a far easier and far more palatable. I know my mother hates the taste of cannabis, so that's
pretty much the boat that I'm in right now. Is I'm trying to make some medicine for my dad, and he hasn't been able to really eat the first batch of brownies I made because I didn't really have taste in mind. Whenever you take medicine, how often is it supposed to taste good? Take your medicine.
Well, not only that, how many other medicines come in brownie form? Come on, man.
Exactly.
What you do is you put the brownie underneath some ice cream, put some more hot fudge on top. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, seriously. Man, that sounds delicious. I'm going to go cop a brownie for my pops, man.
Right?
Have me a brownie sundae.
If he really can't handle the flavor, though, doing that cold extract is one of the best ways to have little to no cannabis flavor, especially, children, elderly, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, alternatively, coconut oil works good to just mask the flavor whenever you're eating any kind of edibles. I've made edibles several times, just a bunch of different things where you can't even really taste the weed in it. And you can't taste the coconut oil either, obviously, but it tends to mask the flavor of the weed. It just hides it. It just hides it. You just can't even taste it.
That reminds me, I just forgot I have a pound of butter.
Shit.
What I've been doing is taking when you make rosin, you have the pressed bags, the pucks that are left over with the material.
Oh yeah, the little chips.
The chips. I've been taking them and cooking them down into coconut oil or sunflower oil or butter, and making a whole extra product out of them just for myself. I've been giving most of it to a friend of mine. It's going through surgery at the moment, but
heck yeah, man.
So, alrighty. Is it? Trying to think of what else I got going on. What else do you have going on?
Well, actually, in my garden, I'm looking forward to the next plants that I'm sticking and flowering because I started sexing a couple of plants that are early Durban. It's a Durban poison crossed with original skunk #1. And I'm thinking that the phenotype that I have over here is going to be a female because I think we're on day 2 right now of the sexing, and it looks like it's already starting to throw some pistils out. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then I have another clone that I can reset as the new mother for that strain. So I'll be able to put the original plant from that one into flowering around next week probably. And then I also have a blueberry, which is another strain that I haven't grown yet. So I'm looking forward to growing both of those. And let's see, I have a green alien that's pretty much ready as well. So I'll have a few plants in the flowering room here pretty soon because I just had barely cut down that green alien today to make hash out of it. And I had cut down the tops of it last week. So I got a little bit of that in the drying chamber. Pretty much other than that, the only thing that I have coming up for my YouTube channel is these hash making videos, this dry sifting and the bubble hash making. I'm sitting here looking at the hash that I made right now, and can't wait for it to dry. But other than that, oh, also as far as my mushrooms go, I ordered some vermiculite because the coco coir didn't seem to work out for me. Looks like the mycelium started to grow, went to about 10 to 15% growth and stopped and got contaminated. So I've tried doing it several times. The only thing I've never really tried doing is what's recommended, which is the vermiculite with the brown rice flour. So that's coming in. I think that's actually going to be here tomorrow. So I'll be doing another video of that as well so I can get my mushrooms going.
The other thing I would suggest for that, in place of using vermiculite, use birdseed, millet-heavy birdseed. Just make sure that you don't have any sunflowers. I've grown my own oyster, like tons and tons of oysters. I also helped grow on. I was talking about that earlier. The Turtle Island Farms. He had about 18 different species of mushrooms there, and it was really cool to learn.
So that's awesome.
He even did experimented with morels and truffles. So where we were going, the plants, the companion plants. So that was really cool.
Yeah, hopefully once I can get my technique down, I definitely want to evolve my game into some different strains of mushrooms. Because right now all I have is one strain of the psilocybin cubensis, and I want to try some edible mushrooms. Maybe try and sell some to these restaurants around here. There's one restaurant in particular that we haven't really had anything on this level in this town in a while, and it's a pretty nice restaurant with some gourmet items on the menu, you know. So hopefully they'd be interested in adding some mushrooms along to their menu. So I need to get my mushroom game down, basically. So who else we got in live chat tonight? Oh, Ponics left this call. Holy shit. I guess I'm live by myself, guys. I actually can't see anything that's going on in chat right now, so definitely a huge thanks to you guys for whoever is watching live. I guess we'll wait about 15 seconds for Steve to come back. Well, guys, I'm pretty sure y'all don't want to sit here and look at a silent screen. So, oh, there he is. Having a little bit of issues there, Steve? Yo, can you hear me? Stevie. Yo, Steve.
Yo. Can you
good?
hear me now?
Good. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. I had my computer crashed. Let me fix my audio. I'm sorry, guys. 1 second.
So who we got watching live tonight, Steve?
Hold on. I gotta get back. Sorry about that. My laptop crashed. And I was running the podcast from my laptop, and I had to quickly switch to my desktop, like before the feed, before the whole podcast link crashed. So that's why that got dodgy. So apologize, guys.
Where's the rest of our panel at tonight, man?
I don't know. So I know Ganja Guy ended up him and his wife had family stuff this week, and then Marty, I'm not sure. I sent him the link. I know he had wasn't able to join us last night. He had kid aggro until real late in the show, and you know, he's dealing with a new baby and all, so he's just got his hands full a little bit right now. And I'm not sure about Roger. I think Roger said he was going to be on the show last night, and just maybe he's sick.
Yeah, I know he was feeling a little, I don't know, kind of a little under the weather, just some stuff he had going on in his personal life. So hopefully that's not anything that influenced him to not be on the show tonight. Hope everything's doing good with him.
That's one thing I'd love to say is that, this show, so many times I've had a really bad day, or maybe not so many times, but a couple of times I've had a really bad day, or maybe some of the other panel members had a really bad day, and we come on the show and we're all laughing and bullshit and having a good time. We're all learning together. It's a really, really fun to get together and do this, twice a week now. I plan on eventually doing a third show. We'll figure out what that ends up being. Still trying to work on a veterans show, which is kind of my goal, but we'll see. I actually was in touch with Sean Major yesterday. The guy that's the head of Weed for Warriors. We have a project might end up helping him out with, or at least we're preliminary stuff. But that'll be really cool to talk about later on. We'll try to get him back on the show. He was a really cool guest when we had him. So actually, did we get him on? I know that I had talked to him. Maybe we didn't get him on the show. I forget. We've done so many episodes now. They all start to blur together.
Right.
This is what, episode 48? Although one of these days we need to do the Lost, which
the Lost episode.
No, we have one. Marty and I got so stoned the one day we actually jumped a number. So
I remember that.
Yeah. So one of these days we're gonna get like a really cool guest, and we'll do like a Lost episode and
oh yeah, that would be dope.
And that's one other thing. If anyone has any other suggestions for people to get us on the show, or have on the show, I know we're reaching out to a couple people over at the Growers Roundtable to try and come on the show, and I've also reached out to Mad Farmer and a couple of other people. So we're hoping to get. I also would love to get a ceramic metal halide representative on the show. We've had a bunch of LEDs. In my opinion, LEDs are the way to go. Fish Ganja Guy is waiting on his very last sample, and then he'll give the reveal on the SK versus Black Dogs. But I will say that one of the lights came up three times the total the flower yield than the other light.
Wow.
And then that same light came up about 2% higher on some of the stuff. But I won't, not going to reveal what it was. Might have even gotten myself in trouble for saying that much. But we will let him do the big reveal here soon. But one of the lights crushed the ever-loving shit out of the other light. So.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing about those results because, I'm sure everyone else is too. Everyone who watches the show regularly, and especially if you follow his Instagram account, he has posted all the pictures of everything that he's harvested, and that bud simply looks amazing.
So we had a question from chat here. Trying to flip between windows after recovering from the laptop crash. So Derek Jones asks, what's your all's favorite method for growing cannabis in aquaponics, media, DWC, or wicking beds? Actually, if you go back to our very first episode we did, episode 1, we touched all about that in great depth. I've grown cannabis in media beds, DWCs, wicking beds, and then our preferred method is called dual root zone planting, which you can go to my YouTube, this same YouTube channel, in the how-to section. I have a how-to on how to set your plants up. And I found that method allows you the best way to add additional supplementation without affecting the fish health, the overall system health, and allowing you to adjust plants on a per plant basis rather than being stuck like you would in a completely connected system like a DWC or a media, or even to a lesser extent a wicking bed. Now, with wicking beds, we've had pretty good luck with, but the problem we've always had is I've had a handful of strains every single run. I would say between 15 and 50%, depending on the strains and the time of year and silica levels, tend to end up with like a root rot or a pythium or some kind of like weird wilt right before harvest. They'll look really good, and then like a week or two out, the plant just goes to shit. We have to harvest it early and hash it. So that's been the struggle I've had with wicking beds. As far as DWC goes, I have where they did do DWC dual root zone setups, but that mostly had to do with the fact that they were trying to adapt their existing equipment to fit this, fit their needs, more so than designing it from the ground up. There's downsides to doing DWC because DWC is going to dramatically increase your water volume. And what happens when you dramatically increase your water volume? You increase your overall overhead and upkeep costs because you're having to dose for tremendously larger water volumes. So we try to stay more towards media beds or flood and drains, or that kind of stuff, to where I can run as small a water volume as possible while still accounting for fish and plant health, and enough to flood the area that I want to flood at a given time. Without having to necessarily, dose so much nutrients. It's one of the methods that I hope, especially working in the Caribbean, really help me fine tune and just get rid of as much water as possible in the system, at least any excess water that we don't need, so that we can reduce our iron dosing, our silica dosing, when we need to adjust pH. All of those things on, if I have a smaller water volume, I can get, my overhead's going to be a lot less than the DWC guy down the street, even though we're growing same plants, and the exact same canopy space. I'm going to crush him on overhead costs because I'm having to dose much less to do the I'm not dosing for this larger water volume, especially initially. But also through maintenance, you're going to lose a percentage of your nutrients through microbial interactions, precipitation, electrolysis, all kinds of other issues that will affect nutrient levels in the water, aside from the plants, So, and that's why DWC doesn't work. It also, DWC, if you want to see documented DWC grow, go over to Friendly Aquaponics. They had no idea what they were doing originally when they started off as they were trying to do under the guise of a church, which, as we all know, does not work with the DEA. It does now. You can actually go to the Church of Cannabis in Denver. But back in the day, they tried to do this in the 90s or early 2000s, way before this kind of stuff would fly. So they actually had and they said cannabis doesn't grow. Although, again, which a lot of the part that people don't know is bullshit. Part of their DEA agreement, their plea bargain, was to act as sock puppets for the DEA and bullshit people into telling them that it doesn't work for
cannabis. You're still having some issues there, Steve?
Oh shit! I hit mute. Where did I leave off?
You were saying that the DEA was using them as sock puppets and telling the public that cannabis doesn't grow well with aquaponics.
Oh yeah. So they were telling them that, but that was literally written into their plea bargain, was to discourage people from using aquaponics for cannabis. So, and then the guy, I'll call him out right now because the guy called me out. Tim Mann stood up at the Aquaponic Association conference and basically gave this sorry excuse of a DEA regurgitated speech back, telling everyone how they shouldn't be involved with cannabis in front of the entire industry. Made himself look like a fucking jester, And they're the company, and Marty and I cite them constantly, although we try to leave their name out, putting out just garbage information saying EM1 is going to harm your system and kill your plants, and adding additional nutrients is going to kill your fish, and just all this fucking garbage. The best one is like earthworms called Salmonella and E. coli. Actually, they have a microbe in their digestive tract that breaks it down. They're used for soil mitigation. They're the exact opposite of what they said. So they're just the single biggest proponents of just bullshit aquaponics information out there. Not to mention they tell people you run aquaponics without filtration units on a commercial scale. You never need to dose any nutrients, no iron, no. It's stuff that anyone who's done any amount of research can tell is just complete crap.
Yeah, who was that you said?
It's Friendly's Aquaponics. If you want a good laugh, sign up for their newsletter. Because I've laughed harder at that than I have just about anything else this past year. Marty and I regularly talk about it privately. It's pretty good. I don't normally rant about people, but since that guy had the gall to call me out by name at a conference, I feel the need to return the favor.
Wow.
But
Yeah, definitely.
But Marty and I get these questions from their newsletter all the time saying, oh, well, it says you shouldn't use probiotics or EM1 or don't dose with microbial inoculants. Or, you happen to have one idiot that did not follow the directions, did it horribly wrong, happened to be a customer of yours. And since they were part of your, consulting program that you were charging them for, you gave them bad information and they killed their fish. That's the problem, So.
Yep.
Sorry to go on a random ass rant on a particular person, but anyways.
Yeah. I love me some EM1 just to set the record straight, people.
Yeah, for those of you who are confused about EM1, we often refer to it as labs on the show.
The lactobacillus serum.
EM1 is just kind of a shelf-stabilized version. But yeah. So and then is there anything else going on with you? And then I'll touch a little bit on this one you want to talk about.
I think that's pretty much it. I'm just getting ready for a new start in the flowering chamber. Just cleaning stuff up and getting ready for that. Getting ready to post some more video on that. So, like I said, I'm just trying to get a little bit more active on my YouTube channel.
Yep.
But you can go ahead, man.
Alrighty. So first off, I wanted to say we're gonna do after we've had a lot of people may have seen me on YouTube and stuff or on Facebook and stuff like that with some of the aquaponic groups. Me and a couple of other people love to get in debates, and especially about certain topics that we feel strongly about. And I decided maybe it'd be fun to stop talking so much and to start a grow off. So I'm gonna get together with the guys over at Aquaponics Anonymous, and I'm gonna make a form sheet where I can get everyone's information, and then we're gonna get I'm gonna go out and buy a bunch of seeds, and we're gonna throw down. We're gonna have a start date and end date the same way you do cannabis grow offs, and we're gonna see whose different methods are best and whose suck.
Oh shit!
I'm tired of talking. We're gonna throw down. And we're gonna do we'll maybe do 3 different crops, maybe like lettuce, tomatoes, and peppers or something. We'll come up with something, and we'll give everyone 3 seeds, and they grow those 3 seeds, and we'll do total yield and blah 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 in a set period of time. But it'd be fun. All these people love to talk so much, or love to get all heated and everything. Let's stop talking. Let's grow something, and let's all start on the same page at the same time and throw down. And I'll post, have a weekly update or something, and let's have some fun with this. Then we can debate even more. But I think it'd be, rather than us arguing and everything else online, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that would definitely be fun. Something, yeah, and something that the community can participate in as well.
Exactly. And we'll see how big it gets. Maybe I'll try to get a seed sponsor. I mean, if this gets totally ridiculously huge,
yeah, that would definitely be fun.
But I thought that'd be something that I could throw up a little bit of money towards, and it wouldn't cost me much, and it'd be a lot of fun to, have a different way of arguing.
Oh yeah.
So it'd be really cool. So what have I been up to? Let's see. Been making rosin on the side, and just for myself. A friend of mine had some extra trim he was getting rid of and just had nothing to do with. It was sitting around, so I did that. And then I've been working on a bunch of business stuff that is very, very amazing and awesome, and I wish so badly I could tell you guys about this second, but a whole bunch of stuff that I've been working towards for a very long time is all falling together with an amazing group of people, and that's probably all I can legally tell you right now. Yeah, I think that's it. But you guys will know very soon. I think in the next 2 weeks I'll be allowed to talk about it, hopefully. If not, it'll be in the next 30 to 60 days for sure. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks I'll be able to do a formal announcement on what I've been cooking up the last, 3 or 4 weeks. Well, much longer than that, but intensively the last 3 or 4 weeks. So just working on trying to find a house and a car up here. Just sold a bunch of stuff down where I was living. I sold off my car in Colorado, sold off some other stuff, so I'm just kind of consolidating all my life and moving more towards the Bay Area to get established with some multiple projects that I'm working on over here. So I guess that's all I can say at the moment. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, Ken from Ouroboros has the schedule out for both my classes, the cannabis and medicinal herb classes coming up, as well as he has his business class, which is really awesome. If you guys are out there and you're looking to start an aquaponic business or even a cannabis business, he'll sit there. Oh, the cannabis business gets slightly more complicated because, yeah, anyways, at the very least, we can sit you down with the cannabis business, but in his case, for the aquaponic businesses, he has an additional day if you're interested, along with his big commercial class, where he'll sit down with you. He'll make a website, an entry-level website with you on Squarespace to get, hold your hand, set up a business plan so you can solicit investors, and basically do all the stuff that, you come in, you take that class, you take the extra little class, and you got everything you need in order to get started and solicit investment and get your farm off the ground. There's nobody else out there that's doing that. From start to finish, that level of making sure that you know exactly what needs to happen. And not only that, you have almost 6 years of data now that Ken is that can share with you to prove that he's not full of shit. Many people out there that can go back years and years and years that have been around. Ouroboros has been on PBS, and they've been featured, on all up and down the West Coast. They're one of the most well-known and largest and well-respected, as well as one of the most profitable aquaponics facilities out there in North America. So, definitely give them a check out, and as well as we'll be doing an online class here paired up with them. Pretty soon, we're working on getting the infrastructure set up over there so we can start doing some of the classes live online, so that people at home can take the classes. If they aren't able to fly all the way to California, they can still take the class, ask questions just the way they would if they were sitting in the class, but just maybe not without the physical interaction part. But we'll cover that with camera work and everything.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, so we're working
on
on
that business class. Definitely sounds like something that can benefit people.
Oh yeah, and again, I haven't heard of anyone else out there that'll sit down with you, help you make your website, help you get your business plan on, help you explain how to solicit investors, explain how to find your different people to reach out to, and not only that, you can see he'll give you examples of how it's working in his business. He's distributing throughout San Francisco now to 3-star Michelin restaurants and things like that. Some of the highest end, most expensive places in the entire city now are buying from him on a daily. You're not going to get anyone better than that in the aquaponic business if you're trying to, really get your own commercial operation off the ground. There really isn't another option that's as good as that.
That's awesome.
So, yep. I'm trying to think if there's anything else going on that I'm allowed to talk about. Oh, I know what I can talk about that I won't get in trouble for. So in Jamaica, been working with the Rastafarian church down there, Nyabingi. As it does a lot of work for us down there. His name is Rasa Aggie. We just got them a bunch of funding for them to start doing cultivated moringa production, which they use for food as well as sweeteners, but also that's going to help them get more a lot of the benefit, or a lot of the profits. The bulk of the profits of that company are going to go back to the Rastafarian Church and fund their educational efforts for both aquaponics and agricultural cultivation. So I was really happy to find one of the people that able to help out one of the other people I'm working with on something that wasn't even cannabis related. It just, they happened to wanted to import moringa to the United States, and now these guys, this really amazing group of people that were able to help me out a lot with while I was working down there. Rasa Yavi and Rasa Aggie. It was great to be able to do something that would help them out that wasn't cannabis related. You work so hard, talk so much about that, but you still need food and everything else, and medicine. So, I know we talk about cannabis a lot, but I also work with, them down there. I work with the LA School District through a nonprofit in LA, and all, just because we do cannabis doesn't mean we can't help people in other ways. Cannabis was put on earth to help people. It was put on earth to make the world a better place, and it's put on earth to heal. And any project that you're working on with cannabis, always try to set aside 5 or 10% of the profits for a nonprofit, because that's what this plant was made to do. This plant is a means to provide for health, money, benefits, all these different things that we need in order to help people in this world, and that's what this plant was made for. And if I can't think of a single argument against that, that's why I'm so
absolutely passionate. And unfortunately, there's not enough people that feel that way. people just take the government's word for it at whatever they say at face value, you know, and that's it. They don't look deeper into the facts, and that's something I wish more people would do. But you know, you can only try, and you can lead a, like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yep. Absolutely.
Do we have any more questions from chat?
I'm trying to see. There was kind of a random question about someone if they're still in aquaponics, but that's not really relevant. I don't know. I think that's it for now. Does anyone else have any questions in chat? I'm going to be hopefully getting... I keep trying to set aside time to work on my nutrient videos. I have a couple of them done now. I'm going to queue them up here and get them on. And
What's up?
no, I was reading chat. But I'll have those nutrient videos up. I have a couple of other cool like how-to videos. I got a germination video that I got to finish getting up. I finished editing to put up, and a couple of other stuff that'll be coming up. Aside from that, I just slamming away at this thing I can't tell you guys about yet, and I'll have a bunch of information ridiculously shortly as soon as I'm allowed. So, but let's just say there's like some of the biggest names in aquaponics are now
the Aquaponics Dream Team.
Yeah.
It's the Olympic Aquaponics team.
Yes, yeah. If you could make a basketball version of like an aquaponic version of a basketball dream team, or like, you know, an Olympic level hockey team, that's pretty much what we got going. Without
Olympic Aquaponics.
saying anything else. Yeah.
That's actually going to be the name of it, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that'll be about it. I think we'll wrap up the show a little bit early. We don't have... It's so quiet without what was it? Oh, Charlotte's
our
Web.
other panel members.
Oh, yeah. I ranted about Charlotte's Web recently. Are you talking about... You said one of my favorite rants was of Steve was on CW. Are you talking about Charlotte's Web or CW Pharma? Because I've ranted about both. CW Pharma is based over in the UK, and then Charlotte's Web is that... you know, basically scam medication that the Stanley Brothers put out. That
Stanley Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, someone asked me. I got a private message the other day, and I was floored. I think the last rant I did was actually on Monday. I think that's what he's referring to. Correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, Charlotte's, since we're on a different show, Charlotte's Web. One of their packages was 9 milligrams of activated CBD. 9 milligrams. That's offensively low. Like that's psychotically low.
That's a baby's dose.
Yeah, when I hurt my back, I was taking 2,000 milligrams per day.
Of the CBD.
Yeah, CBD THC, and I was taking 3 of those a day. So I was taking 6,000 milligrams per day for severe pain. For mild pain, you know, people are still taking 250 to 1,000 milligrams a day. So selling people something at like $60 or $90 or $100 a package or whatever the fuck they charge, $45 is the lowest I can see them charging for 9 milligrams. That's snake oil. That's not helping anyone.
Right. That's pure robbery, and that's not what the cannabis industry is about at all, or should be about, I'll say.
Yeah, and not only that, they have their own private army of lawyers that they're going to sick after people, and their little lobbyist group that they use to pitch just their only strain, just their strain, not medical cannabis. They're anti-medical cannabis. Just for people that are out there aren't aware of that, Charlotte's Web is anti-medical cannabis, and they state that on their website. Okay, they're for only CBD production and only using Charlotte's Web because they want a monopoly. They want to only allow their state. In fact, that was the very first bill. The first 2 bills that were proposed in Florida were Charlotte's Web only bills. Many other states have proposed Charlotte's Web only bills. Why? Because Charlotte's Web is their own private congressional lobbying firm.
Yeah, they're trying to help themselves.
They're the fucking Monsanto or Dow Chemical of the cannabis world. They're fucking scumbags.
Absolutely.
And they don't even help people. Like, their medication is garbage. There's strains now like Canatonic and some of the other ones out there now are pushing 30% CBD. Charlotte's Web barely touches 14 most of the time. Okay, I have a strain called Shirley Temple that's made from 2 of the 3 parent strains of Charlotte's Web, and it's way better. Higher THC, higher CBD, less mold problems, easier production, larger bud size, easier to harvest. Why the fuck would I mess with their garbage? But they're ripping people off and they're giving people false hope, which is even worse.
Exactly.
So, sorry. I did a lot of ranting today.
Fuck it. Our panel members aren't here. We got to fill the time with something
Yeah,
else.
someone's got to be as loud as Roger and Marty, you know?
Right?
Got to fill in for them. And Ganja Guy, he's not here tonight, so. Anyways, I think we'll wrap up the show a little bit early tonight. And OuroborosFarms.com if you're interested in them. You can check out my website at Ponics. Tell people how to find you.
Yeah, definitely check me out on Instagram at Brain_Grow. And my YouTube channel name is the same, BrayneGro. And then I'm also pretty active over at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, which is where one of our other panel members, Roger, is usually he's usually the one plugging I Love Growing Marijuana because he is a admin over there. But I'm pretty active over there, so if you want to have a conversation, definitely hit me up on ilovegrowingmarijuana.com or check out my YouTube content. Check out my Instagram content and just comment, we can have a chat.
And if you guys want to check it out, definitely go check out Marty's channel too. I'll plug him since he wasn't able to join us. AP Meds, he also has his Patreon. I know it definitely helps him pay for his munchkins and for his grow, so be sure to support him as well. Thanks everybody for coming out. We'll see you guys again on Monday for Last Week in Cannabis. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to write us. So we're definitely going to try and get more grow questions on the show. So please ask them.
Definitely.
All right, guys. We'll see you next episode. Take care.